Welcome back to Here's the Thing. I'm your host, Brian Hessen, and we're going to tackle DACA today. Let me just clarify with this video, we're going to be tackling a lot on immigration, but really we want to pinpoint and focus on DACA and its recipients. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Let me just define it for you. Certain people who come to the United States as children and meet several guidelines may request consideration for DACA and are subject to renewal. They're also eligible for work authorization, kind of like a work visa. Deferred action is use of prosecutorial discretion to defer removal action against an individual or a certain period of time. Deferred action does not provide lawful status. That's important. We're going to get back to that. So there's qualifications for DACA. You had to be under the age of 31 as of June 15th of 2012. You first came to the United States before your 16th birthday. You lived continuously in the United States from 07 to present day. You came to the United States without documents. Obviously, they're undocumented immigrants. Of 2012 at the time you applied. You're currently studying or graduated from high school or earned a certificate of completion, a GED, or have been honorably discharged from the military, from technical or trade schools also qualify. So that's what we're really tackling today. I think personally is the biggest difference between DACA and the regular 11 million undocumented immigrant population is that a lot of the undocumented population, they're working blue collar jobs, and DACA recipients are working white collar jobs and typically have a higher education than the general illegal immigrant population. So let me get into a little bit of the history of it. DACA was actually implemented in 2012 by the Obama administration, and it was off of the failure of the DREAM Act. So the DREAM Act was similar to what DACA was. They tried to implement it in 01, failed, 07, failed again, and 2010. What these programs are trying to do, and this is kind of going into the morality of it, is that you have these kids coming over illegally with their parents, but at a very young age, to the point where they have no real connection from their native country. And so you have possibly 6, 7, 8-year-olds that have no real recollection of where they came from. They just know American culture, American history. They're going to American schools, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, they're American except without that document saying that they are American citizens. And so that's inevitable. That's what people really don't realize, that you can rescind DACA and deport the 800,000 recipients that was under that program. However, that's not going to stop the fact that immigrants are still going to bring their kids over here, and unfortunately, they're only going to know American culture, which is going to make it even harder for them to want to leave or even go through the process, just because, with our immigration policies, it's extremely difficult to get that green card depending on what country you're coming from. If there's a backlog, yada yada. There's 1.3 million backlog just from Latin America in general, just in total. So if you're over here, and I'm 6-year-old Brian over in Germany. I'm now 24. I've never known anything about my native country, and all of a sudden now people are saying I need to be deported. Oh, I'm terrified. I'm going back to a country I know nothing about. I don't know the language. I don't know the history or the culture. And I understand that I came over here illegally. And that was my parents' fault. They came over here and broke the law and brought me over. However, I don't believe that we should punish those children that are now adults. I understand that. But like I said, this cycle of bringing kids over is going to continue. And let me just get more into the economic impact of having DACA recipients in the United States. And honestly, the 11 million undocumented immigrants in total, it's extremely hard. I mean, this took me all night to pinpoint the exact numbers to find out the costs and the benefits of illegal immigration. It varied. It varied from the cost, $9 billion to $119 billion strain on the U.S. economy. It's crazy. That's such a huge gap. We don't know if it's the average. We don't know if it's somewhere in the middle. And then on top of that, you have the benefits. And this is more coming from the federal level, because a lot of that strain is coming from the state and local level with police and the courts, and actually having to detain illegal immigrants and deport them back. Where the federal level, they're benefiting from the taxes that these illegal immigrants are contributing and generating for the United States. And even then, though, they state that there's $12 billion of taxes that's being put back into the economy by illegal immigration, but there's no pinpoint of how much they are contributing to Social Security, because if they have a wage, especially DACA recipients, a lot of them may have salaries in white-collar jobs, they're putting money into Social Security that they're not going to be able to have access when they're older. So they're giving money back to the economy, but there's no pinpoint, there's no exact number. So I think that one of the reasons for that and why there's so much confusion when it comes to cost and benefit is that we're not getting enough cooperation from these immigrants. It's hard to get statistics on a scared population. A lot of them are afraid to be deported. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the DACA program is that you have 800,000 recipients that are now putting their information into the federal database. And that's their actually biggest fear from it being rescinded is that now they don't have the I can't even say the privilege, but they don't have the advantage of undocumented immigrants that are here that aren't DACA recipients because they haven't put their information out there for, federal agencies to find them and possibly deport them. But DACA recipients, their information is out there because they're under a government mandate. So now they're afraid. I mean, they know exactly where I live, they know where I work, they know how much money I'm making, and that's the biggest problem is that now, they're just sheep to the wolves. And so I think that also goes back to the morality thing. But that's the problem, is that we don't have a population that's cooperating with the government. So we need to find out a way to weed out the bad eggs, but at the same time have them cooperate so we can understand where the bad eggs are, and we can get statistics on how much are actually being cost on those, so we can now allocate those resources to really find a solution to illegal immigration. So all in all, immigration policy is in need of a revision, and more money just needs to be allocated towards our government institutions that handle immigration to mitigate our serious migrant backlog problem. That's one of the biggest reasons why we even have a illegal immigration problem is the backlog. It's 1.3 million people in line to even get their green cards to come to the United States. That's the whole reason. That's the whole incentive for people to come over to the United States illegally. So, in my personal opinion, I feel like this is what we need to do when it comes to DACA in general. So DACA honestly needs to be it needs to be continued, but with more stringent criteria for people to qualify for it. And maybe one of those could be that, DACA recipients should not be allowed the possibility for their undocumented family members to have access to government assistance programs. And also too, DACA incentivizes migrants to bring their kids over here. That's the biggest argument with the opposition of DACA, and I absolutely agree. DACA is incentivizing people to come over here knowing that they have a chance to have, possibly a faster way to citizenship without actually having to get their green card. And it helps their kids become citizens under this program. And so this is what I say we really should do just to help with the strain on the state and local level when it comes to, economics and logistics of the police force with detaining and deportation. There should be a federal mandate that gives schools the right to deny enrollment to kids with guardians who cannot provide legal documentation stating that they are either documented immigrants or citizens, but keep that information still confidential. That's, like I said, the biggest problem is that we have a population in the United States that we can't communicate with. They're aren't coming up, when there's a crime in their community just because they have the fear of deportation. So we need to keep that confidential. It doesn't necessarily have to go to the police force because they're in fear of deportation, but give that right to schools to deny enrollment to kids who are undocumented unless they enroll with DACA and they are eligible under the qualifications. Allow a faster way to citizenship under this program. Right now there's no real legal pathway to citizenship for these DACA recipients, and that's another problem. Like I said, that's 800,000 people right just out in the blue just are now illegal if we rescind it, and that's, like I said, is a strain on the economy at the state, local, and federal level. But what we should do with DACA is not just give these people a free pass of amnesty. We should allow a faster way to citizenship under this program. However, tack on a foreign migrant tax or annual fee to help the cost of the state or local level until they're citizens, of course. That would help the cost of having these kids going to our schools, at the state and local level. They're already paying federal taxes. It just helps mitigate the problem and the strain of the economy at the smaller local level. This would create almost something like a fast lane towards citizenship under these strict criteria. Essentially what I want to do is take this population, this illegal population, the ones that are eligible and are productive members of our society, and put them in a program and give them two options. You either go with our program and pay this foreign migrant tax, annual fee, whatever is adjusted to how many people are in their family, yada yada yada, almost like tax, like when we fill out our own tax forms. Or if you don't, then you cannot use our public education or assistant programs, and you will just be illegal, and you'll still have to look behind your back for deportation because you are still here illegally. You are an undocumented immigrant. So I just want to give these people a choice to go into our program that we have created a stricter criteria. So we're only getting the best of the best, the people who are actually going to be productive members of society. Or if you don't, then you are here illegally and you have the threat of deportation. All in all, we can have DACA. You know, like I said, there's going to be the inevitability of people coming over here with their kids at a young age. With or without DACA, it doesn't matter. That's what's going to happen. So in conclusion, you know, this may help with children that will inevitably be brought over, of course. We truly can't tackle illegal immigration unless we have a sweeping immigration reform and an increased allocation of money towards securing our borders and mandate e-verify. E-verify meaning that, you know, businesses have to verify the legal status of the workers that are under the company, and if they're not, then they will have a penalty. You can't just have illegal immigrants just because it's cheaper labor. That's not fair to the American public. However, at the end of the day, DACA needs to be reformed, but I do not think it needs to be rescinded. It has too many benefits, and people need to be able to have the choice without the fear of deportation, so we can have the statistics and the data backing it, so we can look at the actual problems and give more resources for our police departments and our state and local governments to really help mitigate the problem of illegal immigration in their own communities. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. You know, the DACA will be in the news for another probably couple months. There hasn't been a definitive conclusion or solution to DACA. It might be something else, but you know, that's just my own opinion. Like I said, like, subscribe, comment below, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'm out.